Hey, welcome back. So next thing is to prepare and level this fretboard ready for re-crowning and polishing, and that will be the neck finished with the exception of the finish, which we shall pop on a little bit later. First thing we need to do is to check that the fretboard is completely level, which I have done. I've taken my notched straight edge here and checked that it is level, which I'm very pleased to say it was level even without any truss rod adjustment, which is a really good sign. So the next thing we need to do now is to tape the fretboard off and get fret leveling. I'll show you how I take the fretboard off. Incidentally, it's a little technique which is quite handy to know. You'll save yourself a little bit of leg work if you do it this way. So the first thing I've done is I've popped some tape either side of the fretboard. And the reason for that is this: when we get our masking tape, obviously we're going to take the fretboard off just to protect it from damage whilst we're working on the frets. And the reason we've done the reason I put the tape on is that when we put a little bit of masking tape over the fret and bring it down over the sides, when it comes to taking the tape back off again, you just literally pull the tab at the side there, and they'll all come off in one, and you won't be there picking and prodding and yeah, having to peel all the bits and pieces off. So put your masking tape on the fretboard, get one side nice and true, cut it off so there's a little bit overhanging, run your fingernail along the fret and then bring your scalpel in at 45 degrees and run it along the underside of the fret, and then when you get to the end just give it a tiny little flick, and then that should just peel off, and then when you get to that end just give it a little tug, and that's perfectly masked off. Sounds obvious, but when I first started doing this I was putting multiple layers of tape on and trying to cut them to size and all sorts of stupid ideas, but this is foolproof. So just mark it with your thumbnail in at 45 degrees along the fret, flick it off to the side, peel it back and tear it off, and obviously repeat the full length. Right then, so that's got the fretboard all taped up. And the next thing, you've probably seen this before, to be honest with you, because there's so many folks on YouTube doing this and showing you how to do it, but and indeed my way is no different than anybody else's. So anyway, back to the point, I digress. All taped off, we now get a permanent marker, a Sharpie I believe they're called, something like that, and we're just going to colour the tops of the frets. Groovy. So, red frets. Now I've got my levelling beam now, and which exactly what it says on the tin. It's a piece of level aluminium box section, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to run the levelling beam with the sandpaper stuck to it across the top, and when I've got a completely well basically when all the tops of the coloured in frets have disappeared and gone back to being metal again, I'll know that they're all level. It's a good idea to try and support the underside of the neck. Incidentally, I've not got a facility to do that just now, so basically don't rub it too hard. Just let the weight of the beam sit on the neck and just glide it up and down. There's no point starting to put too much pressure on. All you're going to end up doing is actually bowing the neck slightly as you do so. So it's better to be able to support it if you can. If not, then just go gently and literally just going to run it up and down the frets until the tops of all the frets are metal again. Alright, that's all the all the frets basically leveled, and I've been over the fretboard with a rocker, which is this little device here, which effectively allows you to put a straight edge over 3 frets and moving down, providing they don't rock about, you know that between those 3 points are all flat. So the last thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to build a slight ramp into the bottom of the fret. So we pop 2 layers of relatively good quality thick masking tape over the 12th fret, and then we remark. And what we're going to do, because we've got that tape there, as we put our leveling beam on the fretboard, it will actually be angled very slightly. So we're just literally going to take the tops off the rest of the frets again, and that will actually develop a slight ramp in the frets, which is just really good practice to stop the fret buzz in the higher register, particularly with people like Phil, who are all over the place. For me, my playing, this is what is known as the dusty end of the fretboard. It doesn't matter quite as much because I generally don't go much further than sort of 13th, 14th fret. Yeah, but Phil loves it, so that's very important. Just going to protect those frets that we do know are level, just quite briefly. Alright then. And again now, we're just going to rub the frets in exactly the same way until the tops of them are all shiny again. And you can already see that the bottom ones are getting shiny, and progressively they'll move up that way, and when that one goes shiny, I'll know I've got my ramp. Super duper. So the ramp is not essential and not typically done. Certainly on most production guitars you wouldn't find that being done, but it does add a little bit more stability from the point of view of eradicating fret buzz in the higher register. So the next thing we've got to do now is re-crown the frets. As you undoubtedly realise from common sense and watching that, when the fret was obviously that shaped, we've just flattened it, so it's now that shaped. So what we need to do now is to bring the edges round and re-crown it so it becomes mushroom shaped again. And the way that we do that is quite simply this: we just mark the fret back up again as we did when we were leveling, and then we get a fret crowning file. There's all sorts of different devices and files with little kind of profiles cut into them that people use. I prefer to use just a hand file. This is a 3-cornered file which has got a safe edge along one face of it, and the kind of the front aspect of it is also safe. So what we do is we offer the file along the side of the fret and just roll it as we go, and from both sides at the same rate. I don't know if you can see this, but it's pretty obvious, so I shall explain to you what's happening. the line that we drew on the top of the fret is gradually getting thinner. Obvious really, isn't it? And what we're trying to do is to bring that line back up to a hair in the middle. So just progressively filing each side at the same rate and in that kind of motion, so you're rounding the top of the fret back into a crown, and just repeat the process until the dearest little line of ink from the permanent marker is left at the top. And obviously the finer that line, the more crowned your fret is, the more perfect it will be. Try and make sure that line stays in the middle. Obviously, as we know, the fret, when it was crowned, the point where it makes contact with the string would have been right in the center of it. So that's what we're trying to recreate now. So that's pretty much getting there. And the reason I like a manual file as opposed to these files with little grooves cut into them is you can actually see the progress as it's happening, rather than rubbing a tool along the top of the fret and then lifting it up and seeing what's happened. I just feel a bit more confident to be actually viewing it real time. Okay, so that is nicely domed now. So all remains to do, I won't show you all of it because it would be boring. All remains to be done now is to sort out the ends. If you remember, we we flushed the ends along with the great big 90-degree box file thing that we used, and I did say that there was the option to use the 45-degree file as well, to put a chamfer along the side of the frets, and that's perfectly acceptable and commonly it is done. Myself, I use hemispherical frets. I like the feel of them, I like the look of them. It gives you ever so slightly more playing surface as well. So it's quite simply all we're going to do with this safe edge of the file offered up is we're going to literally just start rounding them over on both sides until they look pretty. And incidentally, you can also angle the workpiece towards you and bring it over and round, and because it's got a safe edge on the file, it will not scag into the wood. Famous last words. But be mindful, because it does happen every now and again. You pick it up and you're obviously got 22 of these to do. Both sides, so 40. You've got to repeat this process 44 times. It's very easy to get carried away and start doing it a bit quickly. Pick the file up and attack it with the non-safe edge and dig into the fretboard. Even that in itself is not insurmountable, but it's a pain in the backside to have to start sanding wood when you've got to the metalwork phase of the build. There we go, one down, 43 to go. Woohoo! Hey, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and got something from it. And indeed, if you did, then please subscribe to the channel and share, like, and leave some comments perhaps. Feedback is always great to have. So until next time, thanks very much for watching. See you again.